All signs point to Shane Wright being traded, as multiple reports state that the Kraken are open to a deal for the Wright return. In this video, we're going to talk about some of those trade packages and what the Kraken will get in return and how Shane Wright looks on some of these teams that are in on him. You're not going to want to miss this episode of Hattrick HQ. But before we dive into everything here on the channel, we just want to say we're on the road for 19,000 subscribers here. If you're a big hockey fan, you want to stay up to date on everything around the NHL, hockey, Olympics coming up, we're home for it. So go down below, hit that subscribe button. It is completely free to do so. But today, we got some blockbuster news coming out about Shane Wright and him being traded. It's not something that I expected to see today from Elliot Friedman saying, I think what they're looking for is a scorer. That's one thing that Seattle has always looked at, is trying to find a dynamic offensive player with one of the things that they've never really had. Talking about the Shane Wright rumors. He said this Shane Wright stuff that he's available and out there, that's real. We also get another report from Pagnota saying Seattle is open to the idea of moving Shane Wright. They are looking for a legit top 6 threat, and they would be willing to include him in a package to get other teams, and they're saying to get his name out there. And there's a lot of teams that are going to be interested in a guy like Shane Wright. Obviously, he was formally touted to potentially go number 1 in the draft. I mean, he had great years in the juniors, and since kind of coming to the NHL, I mean, he was a 4th overall selection in that draft. He ended up dropping down. He hasn't really found his footing offensively, but he has been a great forward defensively. And I do want to talk about this player a little bit before we get into some trade packages. I want to just tell you what he brings to the table. And they say Shane Wright is a responsible two-way center with strong IQ, solid defense, a quick, efficient scoring touch, regular penalty killing usage, relying more on positioning and timing than flash. He's more of like a cut and dry player. He knows how to get into positions that, put him into the opportunities to score or create scoring chances. He's not going to, create a highlight reel play. I mean, he does definitely have that in him, but he's more, sticking to the game plan and, getting in his spots, finding his teammates open, and just shutting it down defensively on the penalty kill as well. Looking at his stats so far throughout his career, he has 18 points so far this season in 50 games, 7 goals, 11 assists. Last year, being his first really full year in the NHL, he had 44 points, which I think is pretty good. 19 goals, 25 assists. His average per 82 is about 39 points. So he's about a 40-point scorer with the potential to go even higher. I believe he's 22 years old at this point, so still a lot of room to grow for Shane Wright. And this is where we're talking about the defensive side of things. Yes, the face-off percentage, maybe is a little bit rough. I mean, at 37% so far this season, definitely has room to go up. He was a 44% face-off taker last year, so it's not horrible numbers at all. But looking at the hits and blocks so far this season, he already has 41 hits. He's going to pass that number from last year, and same with the block shots as well. He's just an all-around player, 200-foot player, 200-foot center, and he has a good amount of takeaways as well. I really like this player, and I think like a lot of the teams we're going to talk about today, and some of the teams that maybe we're not going to mention that are like these teams that are right at the end of the rebuild, would love to have a guy like Shane Wright. I mean, at 22 years old, with still a lot of room to grow, maybe in the right system, he will develop into the player which he was once touted to be, and I definitely think we could see him get there at some point in his career. Now, one team that they are heavily interested in are the Winnipeg Jets. Obviously, the Winnipeg Jets kind of having a weird season after being so hot of a team last year. A lot of people were thinking they could have made the Stanley Cup final last year. Ultimately, did not happen. And but now this season, they're kind of looking for a change, and I think that's why they're going to be in on Shane Wright. They're saying the potential of Cole Perfetti being available in trade talks. This would be the type of return that we would see for the Winnipeg Jets. And like they say, he has 7 goals, 11 assists in 50 games so far this season. Looking at this Winnipeg Jets roster, obviously, they go out in the summer and they acquire Jonathan Toews coming back to the league, and they were like, okay, they finally got their center behind Scheifele. It's one thing we talked a lot about last season was they're looking for a second center, and they just couldn't find it. And we thought we found it with Jonathan Toews, but he has been all right, but he's not producing at the rate as you would like a second center to be. So what I'm thinking right now is, what's going to happen. They want to get younger, I think, and they just kind of want to retool and maybe move on from Jonathan Taves. So it's looking like Shane Wright is going to be a perfect guy to come in here and just be, a second center for this team. And obviously, it's looking like Perfetti could be going back in this trade. They're looking for scores. So he's still pretty young, Cole Perfetti. He's having it, he had a really good season last year. He's performing very well this year as well. So I think this is a guy who is kind of at the right value around a guy like Shane Wright. But also, you have guys there like Alex Iafallo, Niederreiter, guys like this who you could put in the mix as well. And with Shane Wright still being on his entry-level contract, the cap hit is very, very light, and he still, he's only in his second year of his entry-level contract, so he still has 1 year of that. I believe it's like $975,000 cap hit at this point, I think it's what it is. So it's a good trade for Winnipeg. They get a low cap guy in, a guy who can come in. They can try to, get some offense going through this second line and try to move on from a guy like Jonathan Taves. Or maybe they get Shane Wright and they maybe want him to play wing. They maybe flip him to the wing in this situation. It would be interesting to see how the Winnipeg lineup would look like, but I do think that the Winnipeg Jets are going to try to get younger because they only have a couple more years where they're going to compete, and they need something to change, and Shane Wright is that change in my opinion. There is another team that is in on him, and that is the New York Rangers. Trade talks around the league all over the New York Rangers recently. It seems like every player is not safe in that place, and obviously it seems like the Kraken are listening on Shane Wright. They want a top six winger, and they say on Twitter, this fit is obvious. Alexi Lafreniere for Shane Wright, 1-for-1. I kind of like this trade, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you, because Alexi Lafreniere is a guy who, these are two guys that maybe people are starting to call busts at this point. I think it's too early to call them busts. I still think they have a lot of time to grow in their young careers. But if this would be a very interesting trade to see two, highly touted Canadian prospects who haven't panned out yet. Maybe they both need a fresh start, and Alexi Lafreniere would have a great fresh start in Seattle. I think he's a guy who can come in and immediately be a great playmaker for this Kraken team and a goal scorer as well. And I think both of these guys, once they get, in some fresh threads and put a new jersey on, it could really revitalize them. And especially with the Rangers, they're good at bringing up young players, and I think that would benefit Shane Wright as well and benefit the Rangers organization, a team that's looking to potentially move out Panarin, maybe even Zibanejad this season. So they want to get younger. They kind of want to go into a rebuild. Perfect way to do that is to go out and get a Shane Wright, a guy who you can help build as another prospect that you can build around for the future. So this would be interesting. It clears the cap space for the Rangers and also brings in a great young talent as well. And looking at the lineup right now for the Rangers, he could easily come in, obviously, like I said, he's going to come in on the third line here. He doesn't kick Trocheck or Zibanejad out, but I think he would, be great with guys like maybe Will Cooley and Brendan Othman. I think getting him on this third line is definitely something that would rejuvenate him and rejuvenate this team and just add a fresh face to this roster. Do I think it digs him out of the hole that they're in right now? Definitely not, but it's definitely just an interesting fit for sure in this trade scenario. But last one we're going to talk about today, there actually hasn't been any links to it, but I feel like he's linked to pretty much every team at this point. I mean, I could have talked about everybody. I was talking, the Ducks are going to be a team that are going to be potentially in on this guy. The Sharks as well. These are both young teams. Philly, I think Flyers are going to be in on this guy. There's going to be a lot of talk. I think we're going to see Montreal involved in Shane Wright talks as well, just because of what happened in that draft. They ended up taking up Slav, and obviously that was the better case scenario than we all thought at that point in time. But A team I do want to talk about next, you've probably seen the lineup there, is the St. Louis Blues. The St. Louis Blues are looking to bring in a, kind of a younger talent, and a guy who's been rumored for the Blues for a long time is Jordan Kyrou. I think this is just like I kind of said with the Lafreniere trade. I think these are two guys that just kind of need fresh starts, and Jordan Kyrou has been rumored so long that's going to be so hard on that player to be, always watching the phone, waiting, for a phone call saying that you're traded. So I think maybe we'll see a Kyrou for Shane Wright package here. That's kind of what I'm seeing. I've seen some people were saying Robert Thomas. I don't think Shane Wright has the value to bring back Robert Thomas unless it's a bigger package, a more like Quinn Hughes style of a package. But I do think a Kyrou for Wright could definitely work, and this is a guy who can come in, he can slip in on the third line, or even, this lineup is kind of a weird one for me to kind of judge where Shane Wright would go here. I do like Buchnevich, I do like Braden Shen, but maybe you move Buchnevich to the wing and you put, maybe you move Buchnevich where Kyrou is, and maybe you put Wright in there. Then you have Neighbors, Wright, and Buchnevich. I think that would be a great line, and I think this is just a thing for the Blues where they're trying to get a little bit. They're trying to keep this rebuild that they're kind of in going right now, and they did have a good season last year. I wouldn't say it's quite a rebuild, but it's kind of a retool. That's the right word I'm looking for there. Just a retool, getting a guy like Kyrou out who's been rumored to go for so long, bringing in a fresh face, a young guy who still has a lot of room to grow in this league, and just putting him in the right situation to succeed, and it will definitely benefit the Blues for the rest of their season, no doubt about it. Want to hear your guys' thoughts on it down below in the comment section. What do you think about Shane Wright? Where's he going to end up? A lot of people are calling him a bust at this point. Wouldn't go as far as saying that. I definitely think he still has a lot left to give this league, and I think a fresh organization would definitely help bring that out of him. Love to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I've been your host, KC. Keep your stick on the ice.